The grand cathedral had turned silent, the weight of the moment pressing on everyone. The wedding that had promised to be the event of the season had unraveled into chaos, leaving Isabella Sutton, once the picture of poise and grace, standing at the altar alone. Yet, the story that was about to unfold was far from over. Daniel Remington, the groom, had vanished without a trace, abandoning her in the most public and humiliating way possible. And then, like an unexpected twist in a novel, Alex Remington, Daniel's enigmatic older brother, stepped forward. Alex's dark eyes locked on Isabella's stunned face as she stood frozen, her heart pounding, the whispers of the guests like a roaring tide in her ears. He moved with a calm authority, his commanding presence silencing the room. Without asking, he offered his hand. "He may have abandoned you," Alex said, his voice steady and deep, "but I won't let you face this alone." His words, though soft, carried a strength that reached into Isabella's spiraling thoughts, grounding her in the storm. The walk out of the church was a blur. Cameras flashed as the press swarmed, hungry for a story. But Alex shielded Isabella, his strong arm guiding her past the chaos. She felt a mix of emotions, humiliation, anger, and a strange sense of relief in his presence. The man she had barely known before today had become her anchor in an instant. Days later, Isabella found herself at the Remington family's secluded country estate, far from the relentless media frenzy. Alex had offered her refuge, a chance to escape the judgment and endless questions. At first, she was hesitant to accept, wary of the man she had always found intimidating. But with nowhere else to turn, she had agreed. The estate, with its sprawling grounds and quiet serenity, felt like a world apart. Yet, despite the beauty around her, Isabella couldn't shake the ache in her chest. One evening, as she sat by the grand fireplace, staring into the flickering flames, the weight of everything finally overwhelmed her. "I don't understand," she said softly, her voice barely audible over the crackling fire. "Why would he do this? I thought I knew him. I thought we were in love." Alex, sitting across from her, leaned forward. His sharp features were cast in shadow by the firelight, his expression unreadable. "Daniel has always been impulsive," he said after a long pause. "But this is different." Isabella turned to him, searching his face for answers. "What do you mean? What aren't you telling me, Alex?" He hesitated, a flicker of something unreadable passing through his eyes. "It's complicated," he admitted, his tone somber. "Daniel's been involved in some questionable dealings, dangerous ones. I've tried to protect him, to steer him away, but I didn't realize how far things had gone until recently." Her breath caught. "Dangerous?" she repeated, her voice trembling. "What kind of dangerous?" Alex's jaw tightened. "The kind of people who don't take broken promises lightly. The kind who might have made him run, not just from you, but from everyone." The implications of his words sent a shiver down Isabella's spine. This wasn't just about a man who had cold feet. This was something far more serious. Something that made her question everything she thought she knew about the man she was supposed to marry. As the days turned into weeks, Isabella found herself leaning on Alex in ways she hadn't expected. He was always there, offering quiet strength when she felt like falling apart, providing clarity when her thoughts were a tangled mess. And amidst the chaos, something unspoken began to grow between them. It was in the way his eyes lingered on her when he thought she wasn't looking, the way his voice softened when he spoke her name, the way her heart skipped a beat whenever he was near. There was a tension, electric and undeniable, simmering beneath the surface. One afternoon, while walking through the estate's rose garden, Isabella found herself stealing glances at Alex. He moved with an ease that belied the intensity she knew lay beneath his composed exterior. Finally, she broke the silence. "You've been so kind to me," she began hesitantly, her eyes on the ground. "More than I deserve, especially after everything." Alex stopped and turned to her, his gaze piercing. "Don't say that," he said firmly. "You've done nothing to deserve what happened. Daniel's choices are his own." She met his eyes, her voice trembling. "And yet, here I am, leaning on you, someone I hardly knew before all this." His expression softened, and for the first time, she saw something vulnerable in his eyes. "Sometimes, we find strength in unexpected places," he said quietly. "And sometimes, we find people who see us for who we really are, not who we're pretending to be." The words hung between them, heavy with meaning. In that moment, Isabella realized that Alex wasn't just offering her comfort. He was offering her something deeper, a chance to heal, to rebuild, to rediscover herself. As they continued their walk, the tension between them remained, but it no longer felt like a burden. Instead, it felt like a promise, a new beginning waiting to unfold. The Grand Cathedral had been a scene of whispers and judgment just days ago, but now the air at the Remington estate was thick with the weight of unspoken truths. Isabella Sutton, once poised to marry Daniel Remington, was no longer the same woman who had stood trembling at the altar. Betrayal, revelations, and chaos had reshaped her world, leaving her to question everything she thought she knew. As she stood on the estate balcony, the cool evening breeze brushing against her skin, Isabella's thoughts wandered back to the events that had led her here. She remembered the devastation of Daniel's abandonment, the chilling truths Alex had revealed, and the harrowing moment when masked intruders had shattered the fragile facade of her world. Yet, through it all, Alex had been her rock. Alex Remington, the enigmatic older brother of her former fiancé, had stepped into her life with a presence she could no longer ignore. His steadfast loyalty and the quiet intensity in his actions had spoken louder than words. He had protected her, fought for her, and in doing so, revealed a side of himself she never could have imagined. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting hues of gold and crimson across the sky, Alex joined her on the balcony. His sharp features were softened by the fading light, but his eyes held the weight of everything they had endured. "You're quiet," he said, his voice low and steady. Isabella turned to him, her gaze searching. "There's so much to process," she admitted. "Everything Daniel did, everything you tried to protect me from, it's overwhelming." Alex nodded, stepping closer. "I didn't want you to bear the burden of his mistakes. I thought I could fix it all without dragging you into the darkness. But I was already in it," she said softly. "I just didn't know." Silence stretched between them, heavy yet comforting. For the first time, there were no secrets between them, no walls to keep them apart. Isabella could feel the tension in the air, not the kind born of danger, but of something deeper, something undeniable. "Alex," she began, her voice trembling, "why did you do it? Why did you risk everything for me?" His eyes met hers, and for a moment, she saw a vulnerability that was rare for him. "Because I couldn't stand to see you hurt," he admitted. "From the moment I saw you with Daniel, I knew you deserved better. And when he left you at the altar, I couldn't let you face it alone." Her heart ached at his words, the sincerity in his voice cutting through her doubts. "You've been my anchor through all of this," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "I don't know how I would have gotten through it without you." He reached out, taking her hand in his. "You're stronger than you think, Isabella, but I'll always be here, no matter what." As they stood together, the events of the past weeks felt like a distant storm, their bond the calm after the chaos. Isabella thought of the love she had believed she shared with Daniel, a love that had turned out to be an illusion. What she felt now, standing beside Alex, was different. It was real, unyielding, and born from the fire they had walked through together. "Alex," she said, her voice steady, "I love you." The words hung in the air, a declaration she hadn't fully realized until this moment. His grip on her hand tightened, and for the first time, a genuine smile broke through his stoic facade. "I love you too, Isabella," he said, his voice filled with emotion. "I think I always have." The world seemed to fade away as their lips met in a kiss that was both tender and fierce, a promise of the future they would face together. In Alex's arms, Isabella felt a peace she hadn't known in months, a peace that came from knowing she was exactly where she was meant to be. As the night deepened and the stars appeared, the estate seemed to breathe with new life. The turmoil of the past no longer held them captive. They had faced it, conquered it, and emerged stronger. For Isabella Sutton, the bride left at the altar, Life had taken an unexpected turn, but as she leaned into Alex Remington, her heart full of love and hope, she knew she had found something far greater than what she had lost. She had found a love that was real, steadfast, and unbreakable, a love that would endure whatever the future held.